Hello everybody, and welcome to this AP Shaco support guide and commentary. I'm Bouncing Boxes, and this is Dr. Wiley.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about this game that I played, ranked game in Gold 4 solo queue against slightly higher ranked players. I'm playing in a Graves Shaco bot lane against a Kalista Braum bot lane. Graves is a great ADC to play AP Shaco against. I mean, with. He's a great ADC to support with AP Shaco because he has a lot of 1v2 potential and a lot of burst, and so he can be very independent on his own if you want to roam or if you just want to try out some trickery.
Yeah, Graves is probably my favorite ADC to play Shaco support with. I also like Draven a lot just because he has that snowball and the 1v2 potential is really good.
And Shaco lanes are a lot of times all about the snowball. And he's
Definitely
great at it, and if you have an ADC that also really likes to snowball, then that'll help you out a lot. Now, as far as the lane we're against, Braum is a somewhat annoying matchup, but he is able to be outplayed. He can block a lot of your damage, and he can do a lot of disengage that can annoy you, but he's also someone who doesn't have a lot of sustain or poke, and so he doesn't necessarily counter you. It's just kind of an even lane that doesn't really threaten each other as much. Here, I'm having to leash, and so I put down a single box that would hit the bigger monster, Jungle Creep. Now, something else you can do when you have to leash is put down that box. It'll deal plenty of damage, and then you can go to lane and pre-box your lane in order to gain a slight advantage. Now, the best thing about AP Shaco is if you don't have to leash, then you can put 4 boxes right at the camp, and then you don't have to stay there. You just let your 4 boxes take the camp by themselves as you go to lane, and you will get an instant level 2 in lane. It's an extremely powerful strategy that ends up giving you a massive lane advantage.
It's really fun, and it works on both the Gromp and the new golems.
Now here I'm doing something important. I am boxing my own bush to provide a defensive advantage and also stabilize this brush as solidly ours. And then I'm trying to zone them off, as any support should, in order to try and gain a trading advantage and get my Graves ahead. As you can see, now that we've pushed them away from the minion wave and our lane is pushing, I'm able to take position on the back of this brush. Now that means that I can have this brush as mine as well, and note I'm putting it up against the wall so that minions aren't feared by the box when they come in. It'll only be champions. This provides an advantage and allows you to slowly gain space in the brushes to eventually gain complete control of both brushes, giving you a massive advantage in trades or just sitting in lane.
AP Shaco is a lot about lane control. You definitely want your opposing laners to be afraid of you. So if you can control both brushes and maybe also even the river opening, you've got basically the entire lane to play around with and make them just hate themselves.
Because a lot of your weaknesses come from if they're able to go aggressive and win trades because of your squishiness, and because if they're able to out-poke you. If they're scared of you, they'll play more safely and you'll be able to control what you do. So scaring them, making them fear you, and your boxes stay out of the brush, feel like they want the lane to push towards them so they don't have to deal with it, that gives you a massive advantage. Over here, I just used this box as another ward and as another way to stop a jungle gank coming in. Just in case he was coming. If he tries to come through there, he'll have a surprise and gain a lot of we'll gain a lot of time to escape. Another place you can put your boxes are back in farther back in your brush, so that if you're being chased, you can get away, or even back in the lane near your tower for a safety backup box. And I'm continuing to stack boxes at the front of their brush, so if they get caught by these, I'll be able to go in for an all-in and kill them. Note Kalista's really low, so she has to play super safe, giving us the lane advantage. Now we want their lane to push towards us, or if they walk into the brush, they're going to get hit by a lot. Now right there, I think I was one auto attack away from being able to ignite and get the kill, and so I queued in. If I don't, if I don't think I can get that kill, you want to avoid queuing in because it wastes a lot of mana. Now here, Kalista was out of position and I knew she was alone because Braum had to back. Because she came up just too far, I was able to queue in from behind. You have a lot of kill potential and a lot of surprise burst damage that they think they can come in and get a CS, and if they make a mistake, you're very good at finishing them off.
Even though you're AP, your Q still does a lot of damage, especially at early levels, because it's an auto crit. So your base attack damage will still deal quite a bit of damage, especially if you use his passive and hit in the back.
See, when you're AP Shaco, a lot of times you want to make sure that your ADC is in a safe position. You have a lot of natural safety, so if you end up in the middle of their team, oftentimes you can draw their focus and get out alive while your ADC can deal full damage while taking none. So you come out way ahead on the trade and often can get a double kill on an all-in. Now if you look at this box I have placed here, this is a great spot to place a box because it won't draw fire from the minions, and it's also right at the edge of the bush. So if they walk into it and they'll get feared back out of the bush, whichever direction they come in from, and it will cause you to be able to take advantage of that by going up and retaking control of the bush, because they'll be back where they were, and they'll be in a situation where they can't make the call to like take control over the brushes again.
Right, as AP Shaco, the less they see you, the better. Anytime that you are out of their vision is great. So if you can put the box right on the edge of the bush so that when they walk toward it, they get feared back out of the bush, that means that they are denied vision of you for that much longer, and you can get off a little bit of extra damage and even escape if you need to.
So here I'm establishing that like kind of attrition box placement again. I'm placing this as kind of a defensive box that establishes this brush, and once we get the lane pushed back out towards their side, that's when I'll start putting boxes again in their brush. Right now I have the boxes against the wall in our brush so that any trades that happen on our side of the map will end up winning.
You will notice that Braum is playing really passively, which in this, with the minion wave in the location it's currently in, usually a Braum would be up in that bottom brush trying to go aggressive and attack the ADC. But since you are Shaco, it totally dominates that brush and lets you just take control of the lane.
Here was a mistake by both of us. My Graves, for one thing, forgot to use heal. But also, I didn't have level 6 yet, and we went for an all-in where they were not that low. Usually you want to poke down further, especially pre-6, and also diving into them. There was an attempt to finish off Braum, and I didn't have the damage for it. So knowing your damage is very important, and I made a mistake there. But we're going to be able to come back from that in a bit when we get back to lane.
You'll notice that Yi was sort of coming down for a gank right there too, so if you had waited just a little bit longer, you could have been a 3v2, and Shaco is a fantastic champion to gank for. So
he's a natural jungling champ, so any roams mid you make and any ganks you get bought are very easy to follow up on and very easy to get kills using. So if you notice, I'm placing a ward there. This is just to keep the lane warded. I didn't buy a lot of wards this game because I was trying to use my positioning and box placement to compensate for the fact that I wanted to use my gold for items instead of wards. And that's something you can often choose to do on Shaco because he's so naturally safe. So here we have the lane pushed, so I'm gaining the brush advantage again by stacking boxes here in this optimal spot. And we're able to poke them, because once you hit 6 on Shaco, you start to get a massive lane advantage, because your all-in potential is great, and your poke is great because you have level 3 Shiv.
You can also start thinking about roaming about level 6. So like right now, since you were pushed to tower just a second ago, you could probably have roamed mid, except that their mid laner was dead.
And this fight, I decided my Graves were being focused, so I queued in and ulted next to them so that they'd have to change their focus to me and get off of Graves. I also ulted so that I could put my clone, could confuse them and put my clone into tower range so that it might possibly get killed and explode onto the enemies. That clone placement is vital, and oftentimes you can queue into places that you normally wouldn't be able to. Like you can queue into places where you usually wouldn't be able to survive on any other champion, but Shaco you can get out, so you can often take the aggression of the other of the opponents, especially post 6, and use it to your advantage. Now, if you notice here, I rushed Medjai's Soulstealer. This is actually a really important item on EP Shaco, and something I always rush. Because he has so much natural safety, especially with Flash. If you take Flash, you can get a lot of snowballing advantage on an already snowbally champion. If you get ahead on Shaco and get a bunch of stacks, then you can often use that to gain a massive advantage for your team and for yourself in the mid game, because you're such a mid game power spike.
The fact that you don't die a lot makes it a much better item too, because it becomes gold efficient at around 8 stacks. So
yeah,
if you can maintain a level of about 8 to 10 stacks, then it's definitely a good item.
Now here they're beginning to do dragon, and we don't have it warded, and so we start to move up. We're not going to get here in time for the dragon, but this fight is very good for us. Watch my use of my clone and my clone in this fight. I'm going to send the clone to attack the carries, so they have to focus it or run away from it. And it ends up exploding on both of the carries, dealing a lot of damage and giving us an advantage, zoning them from the fight. So while we don't get the dragon, Yi gets a triple kill, and that's on the already fed Yi, on the already ahead Yi. That is incredible, and getting him ahead is very important. I come out of that fight with 10 Medjai stacks. And so now I'm snowballing and Yi is snowballing, and if we can keep my Graves is 3-1. If we can keep this up and keep the advantage going, this mid game advantage is going to turn into an insane late game advantage. Both of these comps are extremely snowball related, because whoever's ahead I think has a massive advantage. Our comp is particularly snowbally in it having a Yi and an Annie and a Shaco. Both teams have the opportunity to wombo combo with 4 of their members, them without Singed and us without me. But so now we're getting a 4-man gank here, and there isn't much I can do to save this Graves, sadly. But we end up getting a lot out of it. I dive in, and I'm able to ult here in order to make... And they end up chasing me off, giving Annie and Yi an opportunity to go for the squishies. And we end up getting a massive advantage off of this, because they ended up turning to finish off me.
There was also a great Malphite teleport there.
Yes. He did very well there. That's something I want to talk about. If you can get into the middle of a team when you have an advantage and you have your ult available, they will often completely turn to focus you. And against our comp, focusing Yi and Annie was, especially Yi at that point, was vital. But 2 of them turned away and started running after me, giving Yi and Annie time to combo them.
Right, that was definitely an acceptable death. Like, you definitely drew a lot of focus, and you let your team win that fight there, because the Yi was able to just come in and wreck on faces.
That's an important thing mindset-wise when you're going into Shaco. Yes, you're buying Medjais, and yes, stacks are important, but stacks are a means, not an end. You want to get stacks so that you get yourself and your team ahead, but if you lose those, then that can sometimes be alright and be good, because you're putting yourself into a situation where your kills and your stacks are transferring into an advantage for your team. Now here,
You are still a support too, so you want to make sure that you're not being a total hog with the stacks. Just because you have Medjais doesn't mean that you get priority. You want to make sure that your carries still get kills.
that was a good reactive Oriana flash to get Yi into the team, but he's still able to escape. He's very ahead right now. Now, right now we're trying to defend this tower, and honestly, I don't think it was defensible. We probably should have backed off, and I should have boxed more. I could have boxed more defensively here. But instead, we went for something without Malphite being here, and that was a big mistake. I end up dying, and we don't get a lot for this. We end up trading. We end up trading 2 for 3, and it's not entirely worth it. If Malphite was here, it would have been a different story. But that was a mistake from my team.
Right, he just used his teleport for the last fight too, so it definitely wasn't up.
Yeah. So here, I'm rushing. After Zhonya's, I'm rushing DFG, which I'll have fairly soon. That's a great item for Shaco in the late mid game, because once you get that, you can actually almost one-shot a lot of people. Their ADC will go down to 1/4 health if you get a full combo off, and if you can do that before a fight, they'll be forced to either go back to base, or the entire team will have to turn around and focus you while they run away, and you're going to get a one-team fight out of that.
That's a great box right there, because it really tries to control the lane, and it forces them to do something that they wouldn't necessarily want to do. If your team had been there to protect the box, I think it would have been much better, because Singed is just able to walk up and tank it. Now, but I really like that location for a box, because it gives them something that they have to go around in order to get to a good choke point.
Now, right there, I want to talk about the box I just put in that brush. It was to block Nautilus's Q, and it also ended up fearing them away from chasing my team. Now we end up in this situation where their team gets isolated chasing the Yi, and we're able to come in and clean up the fight. And this fight was a lot just because Yi was able to catch Braum. But I think drawing their team, like, it's important to try and draw the team off as much as you can with Shaco.
You really are a distraction. You're there to annoy.
If the team, that's the idea. If the enemy team did what it really wanted to do, then they would focus our Fed Yi, focus our Annie, focus our Graves. But in a lot of these fights, they end up completely focusing me because I'm standing in the middle of them, and a lot of times I get out. They've completely focused me, waste everything on me, and I still get out of there, and my team is able to have complete free reign because I force them to deal with me. Not sure what this Braum was deciding to do here. Just maybe was trying to get a deep ward, but it certainly didn't work out. Something we didn't really talk about yet, but is important, is summoner spell selection. For AP Shaco, in my mind, there are 2 options. In my head, you have to go with Ignite. It's vital on Shaco, both with or without Medjais. It's just too powerful of a spell on him, and allows you to have a lot of pressure, both late game and early game, because of your kill potential, both in.
And I also definitely agree with that. You have to have Ignite on Shaco.
But the option comes in whether you go Flash or Exhaust. Now, Flash in my head allows you to play a lot more aggressively, and allows you to. It makes your chase potential better, and it makes your escape potential better. It's easier to get and keep stacks. It's a more selfish, I think, summoner spell, and Whereas Exhaust is a lot about lane control and winning skirmishes and a lot more team based. You can exhaust to keep people in your boxes. You can exhaust someone in a team fight, and it's a lot more but it leaves you a lot more vulnerable. You can't be as aggressive with your Qs, and you can't do things that you might if you had Flash.
Right. I usually take exhaust. When I play Shaco support, I take ignite and exhaust.
And I take
just because
ignite and teleport.
I really like being able to take out a carry from the fight, even if I can't kill them. So my basic idea is that I jump into the fight, I ult, I will focus usually the AP carry. So in this game, I would probably focus the Orianna, just because she's more utility based and I can take her out of the fight. And I would exhaust the Callista so that she doesn't do as much damage to me while she's focusing me, and it allows my team to go in and do some damage.
Now that fight, they again, a lot of their damage ended up focusing on me. And something else I did there, it was at the end of the fight, and at this point, their Singe was going to be an annoyance to our team for the entire time we were trying to siege here. And so I queued in because I knew I could get the kill, and then he was able to kill me, but it was worth it because my team got to have free reign on these towers. Now Grace is going to die here, but we end up getting this turret. And that's really good because now we have an open inhib. If we win another fight, we're going to be able to just take it down mid. That's something you can think about, because while you do have Magi's, you're still a support. Your life is worth less oftentimes than someone else you can take out. If you can assassinate someone or take them out of a fight and you die for it, it's oftentimes worth it if a fight is happening right then.
Even though you only have 4 Magi stacks right now, that's okay, because they will come back once you get more assists in the next fight.
Yes. And right there, I want to talk about lulling the enemies into a false sense of security. Because this entire game, I've been standing in places, walking up to people and throwing E's and annoying them. And when the team expects you to do that, they'll start to play accordingly. That Orianna wasn't scared because she didn't think I was baiting. She thought I was just being an annoyance. And then Yi was able to come in and clean her up because I had just stood there acting innocent and being annoying. You can often bait people into doing incorrect things just by being Shaco.
It's part of the reason I love AP Shaco so much, because you have so much outplay potential and you cause the other team to make mistakes.
Though in this case, we're about to make a mistake. This Malphite decides to chase a Singed, which is never a good idea. You should always just leave the Singed alone and focus literally anyone else. And I came in to try and help, but I realized this is just a very bad idea. So we're going to try and get away, but Singed is very fast. I'm just not sure what I should do, because I can tell that he's in trouble. We end up going around and trying to make the most of this situation. And here, I get caught with the Ori ult, but I'm able to ult afterward and still survive. And now they're chasing us, and I'm able to come in, take out that the ADC, and then our team is able to come in to clean up. And our minions were on their side of the map thanks to Yi, and that gives us the ability to put damage down on this turret once they back. That fight was really just, we saw that Malphite was in a tough position, and we just had to try and make the most of it. If you can just, don't put yourself in situations where you're going to die, try and stay, oftentimes unless you're going in for an assassination, try to stay like you're a mid laner, play at the back, play, just throw your E's in, and try not to get jumped on. Try to place defensive boxes, and then once someone has initiated or they've initiated on you, that is when you can really take your opportunity to take someone out, unless you can get a pick alone. But don't ever engage yourself.
I've seen a lot of people playing Shaco AP in the mid lane, and I really just don't think that's as good of an option, because Shaco when you play him AP, he's not really a carry. He sort of is. He does damage, but he's more of a distraction, a support, a utility-based champion.
Yeah.
And in the mid lane, it's really hard for him to farm. You end up with about the same amount of farm as a support Shaco.
Yeah.
As sad as that is.
But it's difficult to get farm. You're going to get a lot of kills. You're going to get Magi stacks. You're going to roam bot all game. And it's not going to be as much good to you as if you were just a support. I would say it's just a lot better to go for the support role. I've played Shaco mid, and it's just I'd rather have a carry in the mid lane on my team dealing a ton of damage. It still works, but it's just not anywhere near as viable as AP Shaco support.
You do definitely need a different tank though. If you take AP Shaco support, he's very squishy and he really is not a tank. You don't want to be tanking anything as Shaco ever.
It's fine if your team gets far enough ahead. Your baits can often take the place of a tank of an off tank in some fights. But if you're at all even or behind, it's going to be very tough. Shaco support is tough to play from behind. He's very snowbally, and you want to get ahead on him. And he's very good at getting ahead and using trickery and using different things to get an advantage. But if your team is behind, then you're going to feel that lack of a tank. Now
There's a good example of that coming up, actually. Yeah. You're baiting this blue, or not baiting, but you're trapping this blue. You've noticed that it's up, and you're waiting for somebody to come and get it. And even though you get found there, it's still okay because your team is there to follow up.
And in this case, I end up doing the same thing where I'm using myself as an off tank because I dove in and they put a lot of their spells into me, but I was able to ultimate and avoid a lot of the damage, and I was able to get myself out of there on very little health despite their focus, and that's why we came out ahead 3-for-1. Most champions, if you had thought that, it would have ended up with a 2-for-2 or a 3-for-2, but I was able to get out of there, I was able to take their focus, and my Graves was able to still get off a ton of damage before he died. He still died, but he was able to kill someone, and he was able to get our team advantage. They've basically been forced to do something they don't want to do every fight. They've been forced to focus someone they don't want to. And that's going to give you an advantage in any fight.
One thing that happened in that fight that was really important too is that you'll notice the different play styles between the clone and the original Shaco. So what you did was you jumped into the fight with your Q, and then after you ulted, you walked both of them out of the fight, and then sent the clone back in to continue doing damage and just be an extra body in the way, and then possibly explode later.
And now here, I'm able to drop a box as we're running away, and that fears their entire team as they're trying to get their combos off. And that makes us able to win this fight, because they were going to continue onto us, and they had caught us, but my box placement was able to stop them from finishing us off, because their entire team got feared, and we were able to turn around and win the fight.
In a lot of situations like that, a good box can make a difference. Sometimes your boxes will just get one-shot by somebody who is paying attention and can focus your box as soon as you place it down before it goes invisible. But if it does manage to go invisible and it can end up, and you can get the fear off, it can change the entire fight.
That's often why pre-boxing is a good idea as well, because if you can get a box in a place, you want to try and figure out where the outer edges of a fight might be, whether defensive or on just the sides. Because if someone engages on you, you want them to get feared, but also if the fight spreads out, you often want a box in a good warding spot that they'll stumble into chasing one of you. And that can often turn the tides of, if your ADC is kiting away, you want to give them places to go to where they won't die. Instead, they're trapping the enemy. Right.
And in any kind of idle time, like right now, I try to predict where the next fight is going to happen. So right now, Baron is up, Dragon's up in 50 seconds. You can tell that something is going to happen over one of those objectives fairly soon. So I might go to Dragon right now and start setting up some boxes, maybe in common warding spots or even in some different choke points around the Dragon.
Now here is a really important bait. I flash over the wall, and their entire team comes in to try and kill me. And my team comes around the other side, and I'm able to get out of there with a well-timed Q at low health. My team was able to follow up on my bait, and I was able to cause them to think they could kill me. Because no one seems to really know exactly how hard Shaco is to kill. They all think, oh, we can get a quick assassination and quick pick off, and then we're going to be able to win the game, or at least get an advantage. So now we're gonna end the game here, but I hope this was a useful lesson on AP Shaco support. Thank you for watching.